Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Tara Sowers, she, her, and I will be your worship associate today. As it is Father's Day, I would like to acknowledge all the fathers in the audience, all the fathers joining us online, all of the fathers who are no longer with us, and those who have acted as father figures to us. I would like to extend a thank you to my own father for being so wonderful, and to my husband and the father of our daughter. I can't imagine a better dad. Now that we've embarrassed him. Very good. And I'd like to share these words from Reverend Rod Richards. On this Father's Day, we recognize the vast spectrum of experience and often complicated feelings that surround such a celebration. We honor those fathers and father figures in our lives who have loved, supported, encouraged, and instructed us, and we seek to share these gifts with others. We mourn with those who mourn the loss of a father, and fathers who mourn the loss of a child, whether separated by death or estrangement. We support those for whom this day brings pain and sorrow, who suffered abandonment, neglect, or abuse. We support and celebrate the fathers in our midst who give of themselves to their children, recognizing the strength and wisdom and stamina and love and time and honest introspection that fatherhood requires. We support those who choose not to have children or could not have children, yet who are present in loving and supportive ways to children, youth, and adults alike. And we seek to honor wherever we find ourselves today across the vast spectrum of experience and to feel the compassion that embraces us. If we have any new folks with us today, we're so happy you're here. We will have a welcome circle after the service, which is going to be over to your left. If you're new or returning to us after being away a long time and you're comfortable standing, please stand up or wave so that we can acknowledge you. And now let's extend a welcome to our online viewers. We can't see them, but they can see us, so please wave to the camera and say hello. Hi, This Sunday, June 15th, pastoral care will be provided by Carl Anderson in the sanctuary and Lisa Benign online. They will be responsible for pastoral care for this following week. You can contact lay pastoral care at any time at pastoralcare.vuu.org. Caring Neighbors works to foster a loving and caring community in which VUU members and friends nurture, support, and assist each other through life's joys and trials. You can help out by offering to prepare a meal, get together with someone in your community, or offer a ride to someone in need. And Caring Neighbors can be reached at caringneighbors@vuu.org. And now I will invite our guest speaker, Dr. Whitaker, to come up and light our chalice. Please join me in the chalice lighting words. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice. Thank you. Our invitation to worship this morning is from Reverend Marianne Hatchett Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, Compassion is our shelter. Freedom, our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode, may we find comfort and courage. Here, may our sight become vision to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be.
Please stand if you're able and join me for I Know I Can. Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sorrow heals my soul, and burdens make my strong. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, though trouble in my song, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know we will go on.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Sauter, your Interim Director of Faith Formation, She, Her, and I'm glad to be back. And thank you very much for allowing me to go and spend time with my sister during her illness. Thank you so much. Hi, Trudy. She's watching today. So, hi, Trudy, you hear him? So we're going to have a time for all ages today, which is truly a time for all ages, where I'm going to rely on you to help tell me the story. And Tara is going to walk around with the microphone whenever you have an answer for me. And all the kids, you can stay in your seats for this one. We will walk out at the end, but we're going to stay in our seats with the rest of the congregation so we can feel part of the whole congregation. Let's begin. Grab the microphone, and I want to know, and if you know the answer, then raise your hand so that Tara can come around. What is a mosaic? Do you know what a mosaic is? Right over here.
A mosaic is small stones or glass tiles that make a picture.
Absolutely right. A mosaic is an art form where a pattern or a picture is created by arranging small pieces of material. What can you make a mosaic out of? Anything. Tile, glass, stones, picture. And upcoming next is a mosaic. This mosaic is made of photographs. And we know who this is, right? Who is this? All right. And can you tell what the mosaic is made of? Let's focus in a little bit. One more. Okay, yes. It's made of pictures of people. Here, as you're seeing, is a closer view of the area where Obama's shoulder is. There are families, there are single people, there are older people, there are younger people, people of color, people holding hands, people smiling. And now here's the mosaic of Obama again. Is that art? Yes. Is it beautiful? Yes. Does it tell a story? It is art, it is beautiful, and it tells a story. It tells the story of how all those different people can come together in support of this man and the things that he stands for. They are separate, different pictures of people joined together to make something bigger than themselves. This mosaic tells the story of the people that support this man. Now this picture. What does this picture have in common with the one of Obama? Anyone? What's the same about this picture? We don't need the microphone. These are UUs. Louder. What is the same? There are pictures of people. Is it art? Hey, no. Is it a mosaic? Maybe. Is it telling a story? I don't think it's really art. I don't think it's a mosaic, but we all have our own opinions here. And I think it's telling a story about a very boring meeting. This is a photo of people in separate boxes. These photo boxes are not put together to create something bigger than themselves. Now, I want to tell you about a new program available for you all. That it comes from our friends at the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association. And if you wish to sit, I have no more time for you. Thank you. The next slide. This is Mosaic, its resources, its connections, and its support for Unitarian Universalists who are working to dismantle racism and oppression. This includes classes, resources, trainings, groups, and gathering. This mosaic shows how we can tell the story of belonging and liberation right here in our Unitarian Universalist congregations and communities. We believe that the work for collective liberation can be as colorful, multifaceted, and diverse as the tiles of a mosaic, and can together all of our contributions create something beautiful. This program includes resources, direct lifespan curricula, and at the end, we become a certified congregation, sort of like welcoming congregations and beloved congregations, except we aren't going to do this once, one and done. We're going to do this every few years. So everybody gets to rotate with it, enjoy it. So, next slide, please. During the 2025-26, I can't tell you how weird it sounds to say that. That during that year, we will offer children, youth, and adults monthly anti-racism classes all year long. Perhaps on the first Sunday of each month, perhaps on the first Monday of each month. We haven't decided, but we are gathering a team of interested people to plan that over the summer. And if you're one of those people that would like to be part of the planning, there's a sign up in the back story about back table, and did you notice how I turned a story into an announcement? Next slide, please. A mosaic is a thing of beauty, a complex piece of art created by assembling fragments and found objects, broken pieces and recycled parts. So too is the assemblage that is our Unitarian Universalist theology, a work of art always in progress and shaped by many hands. With that, we'll usher our children out.
Kick it off. 3. You can go on the other side of me.
everybody and sing. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by. And we fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me stay for the record. We're giving love in our family doors. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Everybody and sing. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing.
As we transition to the time in our service where the younger children are going off to their classrooms, let's take this opportunity to shift towards greater stillness, internal reflection, and mindfulness of what we might need in this moment. Just take a moment to become aware of your breath. Mentally follow your breath in and your breath out. You might close your eyes and just feel the sensation of the cool air coming into the body, and notice the changed temperature of the warmer air as it exits the body. Notice any emotions, any thoughts, all the natural tendencies of the mind to try to pull away from this present moment. Thoughts of the past, plans or worries about the future. It's very natural to get caught up and swept away in our thoughts or feelings. But if we can increase our mindful awareness of this experience, not judge it as bad or wrong, but simply become aware of it and make an intentional, compassionate effort to bring ourselves back to this present moment, that is the act of self-love that increases our mental freedom. Mental freedom from excessive attachment to regrets or resentments about the past. Mental freedom from anxieties about what might happen in the future. Release yourself. Gift yourself this mental freedom to just be right here, right now. Our centering music today is the song "You'll Never Walk Alone," which is the official anthem of Liverpool Football Club. And since my husband is a soccer fan, this song is one of our family favorites. It also represents the power of community to provide resilience as we face challenges together. Let this serve as a reminder of how we can lift each other up and support one another through difficult times. Feel free to stay seated and continue to mindfully follow your breath in a meditative practice, or you can listen and enjoy the centering music, or you may want to get up and light a candle for a joy or sorrow that is on your heart, write a note in our collective journal, place a stone in the sand, or add water to our fountain that represents the living waters of this congregation.
dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of our lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Feel free to join me. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of our love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never
These words by Julian Jamaica Soto. Quote, "To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise, unquote. There's a simple yet radical idea from the writer and activist Glennon Doyle, author of Untamed, that relates to our topic of freedom. She shared the idea that there is no such thing as one-way liberation. Liberation, true soul-level freedom, is not something we give or take like charity. It's not hierarchical. It's mutual. It's relational. We are not the givers of freedom. We are participants in it. We are accountable to it. Freedom is not a license, but a promise. And when we think about justice in this way, whether racial, economic, gender, environmental, it becomes clear that we're not separate from the struggle. We can't simply show up with a savior mentality and expect the world to be healed. We have to be willing to be transformed. We have to let ourselves be changed too. This is part of the essence of Unitarian Universalism, the belief in our interconnectedness, our interdependence. No one is free until everyone is free. The amazing writer Sonia Renee Taylor, author of Body is Not an Apology and the Book of Radical Answers, was interviewed by the California Institute of Integral Studies on the topic of radical answers for personal and collective liberation. Sonia stated, quote, "I've been thinking about abolition as a framework, and I've been thinking about what it means to not adopt a police state inside of my relationship with myself. There are so many ways in which we've been practicing freedom backwards," she goes on. "We keep thinking of it as an external destination. I'm more and more convinced every single day that if we have not figured out how to experience it as an internal experience, even if we arrived at whatever it is we're calling freedom, we wouldn't recognize it. We wouldn't know it because we've never seen it as an embodied experience. And I can't make a free world by myself. I need us all in collection to do that. I can practice the things that feel most liberatory inside my being. Every day I get to practice that. And the more I practice that, the more I have the tools to begin to implement that in the external world." In another quote, Sonia says, "Liberation is not a deficit-based model. Liberation is not about what we are against. Being against something does not unto itself create the foundation for what it is you are for. You have to seed something into that space. Once you've removed a thing, if you don't plant something in that vacant space, a weed will return. Liberation is an abundance-based energy. To me, liberation is the unobstructed access to each person's ability to manifest the highest versions of themselves. The unobstructed access of each person's ability to manifest the highest versions of themselves. Nothing is in the way. None of the oppression is in the way. None of our unhealed traumas are in the way. None of these systemic things are in the way. None of our internal blocks are in the way. That's liberation for me. And if we're not cultivating that, what are we cultivating? These entire systems must be uprooted. The soil must be tilled to the highest extent. And then we must plant something new. Liberation is what is available to us, not just what is gone from us. So I invite us to ask, what is actual liberation? And what if we designed from that place? What if we ran our organizations from that place? What if we built our systems from that place? We'd have a different world. How can we practice greater internal liberation with the purpose of creating opportunities to expand that freedom to the external world? And where are you being called to show up? Not as a rescuer, but as a co-liberator. Because there really is no such thing as one-way liberation. I am grateful for that truth. May we keep living into it together. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Matthew Whitaker, PhD, is the founder and CEO of Diamond Strategies, LLC, a premier trend-setting and award-winning minority business enterprise. This organization focuses on organizational excellence, social responsibility, and community engagement to help their clients build a cohesive, innovative, equitable, and sustainable environment while promoting corporate citizenship and community impact. Dr. Whitaker is also executive director of the George Washington Carver Museum and Cultural Center in Phoenix. And he is the founder of the Center for the Study of Race and Democracy, winner of the 2014 Arizona Diversity Leadership Alliance Inclusive Workplace Award at Arizona State University, where he was professor of history for 15 years. Dr. Whitaker earned a BA in sociology, BA in history, and an MA in history at Arizona State University, and he earned a PhD in history with honors at Michigan State University, and recently completed an executive certification program in diversity, equity, and inclusion at Cornell University. He has edited 3 books, including Hurricane Katrina, America's Unnatural Disaster, and he is the author of Race Work, The Rise of Civil Rights in the Urban West. He has also authored award-winning articles, penned over 40 opinion pieces, and is currently completing a memoir entitled The Undisputed Truth, A Revolutionary Journey to Black Manhood. Dr. Whitaker has consulted, spoken, and lectured in Australia, Canada, China, Czech Republic, England, Ghana, and Ireland, and was given ASU's 2015 Pioneer Award for working to improve African American life, community, and culture. He is the co-founder of the Healing Racism Public Dialogue Series, winner of the 2008 National League of Cities Promoting Inclusivity Award, and he was given the City of Phoenix 2006 Martin Luther King Jr. Living Dream Award. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Matthew Whitaker.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Right. You don't mind if I walk around a little bit when I do this, right? I am so happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. All the organizers of today's service, I just want to send you a shout out and say thank you particularly to Tara. Shout out to Reverend Sarah, wherever she is right now. Blessings to you, safe travels. It's one of my favorite persons. And so thank you. This topic that I'm going to talk about today is one of my favorite topics to discuss as well. I am going to talk about Juneteenth and what Juneteenth can tell us about freedom, what Juneteenth can tell us about unity, universalism, peace, and inclusion. But before I do that, I want to just give another quick shout out to all the fathers in the room, for the purpose of giving you just sort of a little PSA. When I'm finished with today's service, unfortunately, I love when I'm in the pulpit someplace. I love fellowshipping with folks when I'm finished. But today, since it's Father's Day, I have to leave right away because I'm coaching my little basketball team that I coach with 9 and 10-year-olds that my son is on. And so he's at home right now putting on his shoes and lacing them up and ready for me to go home to take him to this thing, right? So we will finish the day off with a movie. That's our Father's Day tradition. So I'll be watching Mission Impossible this evening, starring Tom. I don't know how long Tom Cruise can do these Mission Impossible movies, but as long as he's doing them, I'm in. So I just ask for your forgiveness in advance because I'm going to have to dart out of here when it's over. But I want to make sure that the time that I have with you, that I touch all of the points that I want to touch. So I want to begin, first and foremost, with two scriptures. And I'll read the first one, Romans 12:15. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Be happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep. Laugh with your happy friends when they are happy and shed tears when they are down. And I think this, among other things, helps us understand what is requisite for friendship and fellowship. And that is trying your best to put yourself in the shoes of others, no matter what you are going through, finding the space to appreciate and honor their humanity, right? Trying to understand what it is that makes them tick, what it is that they might need in that moment, and sometimes that's just understanding, right? So rejoice with those. And then Luke 4:18-21, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor. This sounds familiar to many of you, I would imagine, right? It's one of my favorite. He hath sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovering of the sight to the blind, to set the liberty that are those who are bruised, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. What is the acceptable year of the Lord? It seems to me that one of the requisites to have acceptable year of the Lord is for us to think about the least of these in everything that we do, to put in practice our faith, to, as what one historian wrote in a book called To Joy My Freedom. It's a history of black women in the aftermath of the Civil War who months before were enslaved, but now were free, at least on paper. And when they were interviewed by folks, primarily the Freedmen's Bureau, decades later, recounting their experience as enslaved people and then freed people, they wanted to understand what they thought of freedom, what it meant to them. And most of those women said, and I'm paraphrasing, we know now by the letter of the law that we're free. But the question is, what does that mean? What does freedom mean? Is it a process? Is it a state of mind? Is there a finish line at some point that you get to where you proclaim yourself to be free? Many of those domestic workers, and my grandmother was a domestic worker, said, what gives our freedom meaning and resonance is our ability to define for ourselves what freedom is. Right? Others might have ideas about what freedom means for us, and many of those folks who have an idea about what freedom means to us is, quite frankly, very different from what we envision as being free. Juneteenth reminds us of this, 150-something years later, after the first Juneteenth. It challenges us to ask us questions continually about how we define freedom. How will our progeny 100 years from now, 200 years from now, look back at this particular time now where many of us were running around with freedom on our lips at the same time that lots of unfreedom was happening? How are we going to be viewed? How are they going to dissect our own interpretation of freedom based upon the way that we lived our lives, not what we said? Right? To Joy My Freedom, I encourage you to check that book out. It's Googleable. right? You can go to a local bookstore and order it. Check it out. So these two scriptures I would like to ground what I'm going to talk about when I'm talking about Juneteenth. And I'm going to finish by just talking about some real positive aspects of Juneteenth, because a lot of folks, even now, don't really know what Juneteenth is about. How many of you are familiar with Juneteenth? Very, very good. All right, good. Okay. So in many ways, I'm preaching to the choir literally today. But hopefully I can share some stuff with you might be a little bit newer. In the 19th of June wasn't the exact day the Negro was freed. This is a quote from a freedman in the immediate aftermath of enslavement, when he found out in East Texas that he was free 6 months after the 13th Amendment. So we want to know how folks celebrated back then. I'm the nerdy historian. I always go to the primary sources. He's telling us the 19th of June wasn't the exact day the Negro was free, but that's the day they told them they was free. And my daddy told me that they hooped and hollered and bored holes in trees and stopped it up with gunpowder and lit it. Not the safest thing in the world, right? They did it differently back then. And that would be their blast for the celebration. This is a remembrance of one of the first Juneteenth celebrated in East Texas in 1865. My family is from East Texas, so I grew up celebrating Juneteenth. My mother celebrated Juneteenth. My grandmother, my grandmother's grandmother celebrated Juneteenth. This isn't something that's new to us. And even in Arizona, when I was growing up, and there was one Juneteenth celebration at East Lake Park in Central Phoenix. That was the only celebration in the entire valley. Despite the fact that it might have been 115 degrees outside, there was no indoors at East Lake Park. We were there trying to give joy to our freedom. Why we were eating hot barbecue in 115 degrees outside is beyond me. I don't know why there wasn't some salads or something like that. But nevertheless, we'll talk about food a little bit later on. This was one of those early recollections. Now, let me talk to you very quickly about why Juneteenth is particularly important. We all know that most life, human life, began in the northern horn of Africa 2.6 million years ago, when the first Homo sapiens walked upright on 2 feet. That happened in northeast Africa. In Genesis, it's referred to as Cush. Those kingdoms that grew up in Cush, Meroe, Axum, and what is now Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, right, and Egypt. That is the cradle of civilization, and we know that those, and by the way, for those of you who are uninitiated, who don't know the history, that area of the world looked a lot different 2.6 million years ago and even 30,000 years ago, all right? But they migrated southward to southern Africa and then ultimately northward to Central Africa and westward to Western Africa, where my direct descendants, at least 88% of me, the other percentage came from Europe. Shout out to the Irish and the British who give me that 18%. But the majority of it came from West Africa by virtue of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, we know that that was one of the most horrible forced migrations of human beings all in human history. Somewhere between 12.5 million and 20 million people of African descent, primarily men, because they got disproportionately, they snatched the men up and brought them to what we now call the New World. The Spanish, the Dutch, the English followed the Portuguese. A lot of people forget about the Portuguese, but they were the ones they were the OGs of the transatlantic slave trade. And taking enslaved people across the Atlantic, bringing us to what is now the United States. And by the way, only about 620,000 of those folks on those slave ships, and the majority of them died, by the way, on the slave ships on the way over here. But the majority of the people that were brought to the so-called New World, only 620,000 came to what is now the United States. The rest of them went to other areas of the Western Hemisphere. Anybody know where the majority went? I'm sorry, I'm an unreconstructed teacher. Brazil, bingo. That's why I love this congregation. You all are well read. I go to some places in this society, everybody, I appreciate y'all. Brazil, there are more people of African descent in Brazil than any other place outside of Africa in the world. Right? But that transatlantic slave trade, which gave rise to chattel slavery, did a number of things. Number one, it bankrolled the Industrial Revolution by virtue of producing cotton, indigo, right, and tobacco, which Europeans loved indigo for the dye, because they loved colors in their clothes, tobacco. Queen Elizabeth loved her cigars and cigarettes, right? And cotton for clothes, which meant there was an intense demand for it, which is why you needed labor. And you don't get any cheaper than free labor, right? But that chattel slavery created what we now know to be a muscular capitalism that gave rise to what is among, if not the most powerful nation on the earth. What we don't know are the stories of resistance amidst that 246 years of enslavement. Most of what we hear is devoid of any agency for the folks that were enslaved. It was what was done to them. One of the things that Juneteenth reminds us is that from the beginning of enslavement to its end, black people, and since it's Father's Day, including black men, who are often portrayed in all sorts of negative ways, led the way in ceding meaning to our documents of freedom. That is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, giving it meaning. This is one of them. Sergeant William Carney, Fort Wagner, South Carolina, July 18, 1863. He was one of the first soldiers to storm Fort Wagner, which is where the Civil War broke out. Understanding that he would be cannon fodder. An act of resistance. Well, why, Doc, are you showing us somebody who ultimately gave his life? Because the late Malcolm X told us that the ultimate price of freedom is death. And so while I'm not encouraging anyone here to run in front of a tank or a cannon, it does remind us, I think, of ultimately for some people what the ultimate price has to be. Because as Barack Obama, and I love that more with Mosaic earlier because you gave me a sort of a window into this. That's why I love y'all. I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I don't see that in most congregations. That's very good. But I appreciate that here. But Barack Obama just said recently that one of the things that folks, even well-meaning folks, people who consider themselves to be progressives, who want to promote universalism, they often forget that at a certain point, you may have to pay a cost for promoting freedom and unity. It isn't exactly free. And that cost often will require lots of discomfort. But in that discomfort, you can also experience joy. I'm going to move a little quickly right now. We all know about the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, right? That declared that those people of African descent. Now check this out. You gotta pay close attention to this. It said, declared that enslaved people, thenceforward and forever free, committed to the military to liberate enslaved people in rebel states, liberate folks in rebel states as an act of justice warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity. It exempted border states and all three Confederate states held by the Union, which mean it didn't really emancipate the vast majority of 3.9 million people who were enslaved. More so than anything else, it was a proclamation. I can proclaim anything. I can proclaim that I'm 6'6" and that I'm worth $1 billion. That doesn't mean that I'm going to get it. But it was a strategic military tool that was extremely important, so I don't mean to minimize it. But it was primarily strategic, and it exempted certain folks, right? So, what did we need? We needed the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment actually abolished slavery. And I'm going to read this to you. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime. I want you to put a pin in that. Right? Whereupon the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So if I read that correctly, the lawyer in me, I was actually going to go to law school before I moved back here. I was admitted, University of Michigan, I was going to go. Right? But it reminds me that how you read things and interpret things are really, really important. Because quite frankly, it didn't abolish slavery completely. If you're convicted of a crime, you can be enslaved. And if we look at our prison population, which is 66% black and Latino, you can see that this in many ways was deliberate because it allowed us to continue slavery by proxy, slavery by another name. for another 100 years, up until 5 years before I was born. That'll give you a sense of how not long ago that was. Now, there were always allies, however, that understood the limits of this, that undertook to resist the system as much as they possibly could. Gordon Granger was one of them. He was a Union general who rode into Galveston, Texas, 6 months after the 13th Amendment and found that people of African descent were still working under the yoke of enslavement and was stunned by this. I don't know why. They didn't have Snapchat. They didn't have X, Facebook. They didn't have television or cell phones. I mean, news traveled a little bit slower back then, and those plantation owners were not in any hurry to set free their free labor. So he showed up and announced to the people of African descent that you are in fact free. You don't have to stay here. Committed the troops to enforce it. Put a pin in that as well. Letter of the law and enforcement. Right? Gordon Granger. So immediately after this, you started seeing the first Juneteenth celebrations to give meaning to freedom and to encourage people to talk about going forward how they are going to give meaning to their freedom. What is that going to look like? Martin Luther King reminded us 1967, that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concerns of dedicated individuals. Why? Because Mark Twain once wrote that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And it rhymes sometimes because many people assume after they do a victory dance or a particular law or amendment is passed, they spike the football as if those who do not want to see that happen are going to go quietly into the night. And they do not. They resolve to plan and to organize and to be patient, just like a spider, waiting for the appropriate time to bring back what they never wanted to leave in the first place. So I say to folks, one of the things that Juneteenth reminds us of is we're still fighting the Civil War by proxy, 150 years plus. If you look at an electoral map of the last 3 elections and you see the way people voted, the red states overlap with Confederate states. The only issue now is they've added more. So instead of the Deep South, it goes right up the middle of the heartland all the way to Canada. And then you have the coasts. Right? Tireless exertions, understanding that this is the process. What does Juneteenth symbolize, though? Lots of different things. Number one, the dynamism of Black history and life. Right? Because immediately in those first celebrations, Black people were calling for certain things. One of the main things that they were calling for was the ability to chart their own course in their neighborhoods and communities, which meant they had to secure some political power, which meant they had to run for office. And they did. Women couldn't run for office, however. Men could. And when they were elected, many of those men, despite the negative way that Black men have been portrayed historically, got in the South Carolina legislature, the Mississippi legislature, the legislature in Georgia, in Mississippi and South Carolina, because of the demographics of the population, they held the majority in those state legislatures. And one of the first things that they put forward was the abolishment of imprisonment for debt. The abolishment of imprisonment for alleged sedition for speaking out against the system. And for fighting for universal suffrage. Those men were fighting for universal suffrage for women, all women. But the people who were in charge used race as a wedge to separate Black men from white women in particular, to make them feel as though they were natural enemies, which in the long run put off the universal suffrage for decades until 1919. So if we understand more about the true history of this country and African Americans, particularly African American men, and I say this on Father's Day, not all of them were fathers, but many of them were. If we understand that, we will understand that in many ways we're trying to reinvent the wheel. And we will also understand the nature and dynamics of divide and conquer, because it's as old as the Republic. Now think about that. If they wouldn't have been divided and conquered, all women would have had the vote probably 40 years earlier. Didn't learn that in your 8th grade history, did you? Strength of ancestors who survived so that we can live. At the center that I direct, we had a Juneteenth celebration yesterday. We had about 800 people come on through 4 hours, and one of the things that we did was invoke our ancestors and thank them for their strength and their perseverance, because I stand before you today because somebody on a slave ship refused to die. I stand before you today because somebody during Jim Crow, despite all the indignities that they faced, had enough hope to hang on and to plan so that I could be here talking to you today, and you could have this diverse audience here. A memorial to the dead and the rejection of their killers. This is one of the reasons why some people are thoroughly against understanding this aspect of our history, because this makes them uncomfortable. But history isn't something that you can cherry pick. You can't go out to the tree and say, you know what, this orange looks really good. I'm going to take this one. But this one, I'm going to leave it. That's not really the way history works. It's not like going to a restaurant and ordering something up or cooking up some cookies. Today, I think I have chocolate chip cookies, but you know, those macadamia nuts, I don't like them too much, so we're going to leave those out. Doesn't really work that way. A triumph over hatred and cruelty. And triumph as a process, not by some finite thing. You win incrementally. Most people who give up because they think that there's some finish line where we have to stop upholding our humanity, where we can celebrate the victory and just kind of go on as though we don't have to do anything. How many people have you heard recently say, oh man, I thought that, I never thought I would see this again? Or how are we here? Or what happened? Well, a lot of people celebrated and thought that the war was won. Right? The importance of allies in struggle. Martin Luther King said it best, quoting scripture, we're either going to succeed as brothers and sisters or perish as fools. It really isn't an option. We have to work together. Universal struggle against oppression, the importance of cultural humility. Many of us are raised to think that the way that my oma, my nana, my grandmother, my tío, my abuelita, the way that they do it is the best way to do it. And everybody else, I'm normal, and everybody else is by proxy abnormal. Right? I love all of my elders, but I'm not perfect and they weren't perfect. They wouldn't want me to say that, but I love them. Purest evils that plague the U.S. and the celebration of people who fought them. And this is really troubling and problematic for some folks. The admission that evil is universal. And even in a nation that we love deeply, evil exists. And it leads. And it teaches. And so we have to be thoroughly vigilant. Frederick Douglass told us about this, the great Frederick Douglass. If you haven't read his autobiographies, you have to. You have to. And he reminded us that it's easier to build strong children than repair broken men. Meaning we have to start early, right? We have to start early. And he told us that there's no progress without struggle. The minute we stop struggling is the minute that progress ceases and we begin to atrophy. So if you're not struggling, you're not growing. I'm a martial artist. I'm getting ready to go to China and compete in October. I started 6 years ago, so it's never too late. It's the Olympic trials. I'll be there with 8,000 other athletes from all over the world. I'm in the 37 to 55 age range, so don't be confused. I'm not fighting a bunch of 30-year-olds. Although the 37-year-olds, I still got to get them quick because the longer it goes on at 50, my chances of victory are reduced, so I try to get them quickly. But no progress without struggle, and I say this because when I started studying martial arts, I was 67 pounds heavier. I was told that I was too old to do it, and when I first started going, you understand how it is when you're in the 40s and 50s, you turn and put your legs out of the bed and you want to get up. Your body's up and out of bed. I mean, your mind is, but your body's not. And things start cracking and popping and all that type of stuff. And so I started doing this, and my teacher said, no, you're never too old, and you can learn these things. I'm more flexible now than I was when I was 20 years old. But it did not come without pain and discomfort, and lots of Epsom salt. Okay? So just understand that. Frederick told us, and he reminded us. Now, let me wrap up by saying, I talked about the Civil War by proxy. Between 1865 and 2025, Oppression has continued in many ways, but it's continued by proxy, meaning a lot of people can't see it because their vision of oppression is 19th century oppression or 18th century oppression. It's not 21st century oppression, right? You understand what I mean by that? There's lots of Jedi mind tricks being played on folks right now, right? So understand that. But one of the manifestations, one of the things that reminds us that it's still existing by proxy was this from January 6th. I remind you that even during the Civil War, the Confederacy never entered the U.S. Capitol and paraded the Confederate flag in the chambers. That never happened, even during the Civil War, but it happened on January 6th, which should be chilling to many people, but unfortunately, it is not. So what do? Understand that it's very difficult to respect something or someone that you do not understand, and understanding requires knowledge. And knowledge requires engagement. You have to seek it. And not just on paper, but the people themselves. The individuals themselves, which means sometimes we have to get out of our bubble. And we have to allow ourselves to feel uncomfortable, meaning others will share uncomfortable truths with us. And I've experienced it as well. I organized a program once where I had a disabled person come up to me after the program, and they said, when you first began, you said, everybody please, I'm paraphrasing, stand and welcome whoever the speaker was. And they said, you have to understand that all of us can't stand. And number one, there's no seating up front, which we were all in the back, which means we couldn't even see. We couldn't stand our seat. And I said, oh, I felt awful. And I said, you're absolutely right. And they said, we don't want you to feel guilty. All we want you to do is resign to do better the next time. And I said, okay, I can do that. And that's what I did. But some people don't want to be corrected, right? They would rather make mistakes, right? Or entertain the idea of potentially harming somebody than being corrected. Right? I would rather be corrected. Just like the diet I taught a course, it was a diet class, and I taught the whole course with my zipper down. And nobody bothered to tell me that my zipper was down. And when I was over, a young lady came up and she said, Dr. Whitaker, and she was averting her eyes. She said, I just want to tell you, I'm sorry, but your zipper is down. And I was like, y'all didn't tell me this. Nobody would raise their hand and tell me this. I'm okay. But it's important to understand the relationship between understanding and knowledge, because if we don't have knowledge and understanding, if you don't have knowledge, basically we will fill that gap. We will assume. That's what Homo sapiens do. If we don't have knowledge of something, we generally don't want to go ask, so we will fill the gaps with whatever we have, and a lot of whatever we have is problematic. So assumption leads to bias leads to discrimination leads to inequity, and inequity leads to suffering. So our very selfish inability to accept discomfort at the end of it can lead to suffering of others. Right? Now, what can Juneteenth tell us that's really positive? Because I always like to end on pretty colorful notes, right? It can tell us about how dynamic not only the African American community is, but all communities if you take the time to learn about it. So if you take the time to learn about Juneteenth and celebrate other, whether it's Irish American Month or Italian American Month or whatever I love all of them. What's that? LGBTQ, that's right. I got 2 moms, so we won't even go. That's a whole nother presentation. So I would say I actually have pride cufflinks that I love wearing folks up to places. But one of the things that you can do by learning about other people is learn about how dynamic our culture is as human beings as manifested in different cultures, right? So achievement in African American history. You have arts, military service. We've served in every military engagement. Unfortunately, we have military engagements, but we've done that since the very beginning. Dance, sports, medicine, art, and one of the things that I love the most, comedy. Black folks have really helped educate the world about injustice through comedy. And there are others. George Carlin, I miss him, who did stuff like that too, right? Comedy is great. If you want to watch an interesting documentary as I wrap up, look up on the real side. On the real side, a history of black comedy. It's great. There's a big part on Richard Pryor that'll keep you in stitches. So, it teaches us about that. It also teaches about the universality of food. One of the things that I love about reading scripture, reading the Bible, is how many times people are gathered around food or drink. Right? So when Juneteenth, people have asked me, well, how do people celebrate Juneteenth? And this is what I'm going to finish with. Food is big. So we had some food yesterday. I had collard greens, mac and cheese, pulled pork sandwich, and oxtails. Smoked oxtails, by the way. Enslaved people, poor people, working class people around the globe can take all the stuff that the patricians didn't want and make it delicious. So we did that yesterday. But what you see here globally on the screen to the far left at the top is gumbo. Gumbo has African origins because the okra is from Africa. Brought it with us over here. And then you have fufu in West Africa to the immediate right. Anybody been to West Africa? Have fufu? You eat it with your hands. The white is a sort of maize thing. You take that and you eat it with the food. And then you have Ethiopian food, fosalia, injuri, collard greens. Collard greens are from Africa as well. Jerk chicken, right? Jollof rice. And if you don't know it, jollof rice, Africa actually produced more rice than Asia did in the ancient world. So rice as we know it came to Europe via the Spanish, who then brought it to the so-called New World, which ended up in Mexico, which many people describe as Spanish rice, right, or Mexican rice. But that rice actually is a derivation of jollof rice, which is African, right? Fried chicken, yams are from Africa. Baked macaroni and cheese, not that abomination that is that Kraft stuff that you put the water in. Baked macaroni and cheese. Thomas Jefferson, one of his enslaved folks that he sent to France, came back with all these cheeses in France and then merged it with macaroni and pasta from Italy and then put his own spin on it, put it in the oven and baked it, and just heaven came in the midst of trauma and horror. Rum cake, peach cobbler, red velvet cake. And one of the things that we celebrate on Juneteenth, one of the things that we consume in fruit is watermelon. Watermelon came from Africa. Strawberries, red fruit, to symbolize the blood that African Americans shed throughout enslavement. So food is a big part of it. And just celebration, gathering together with others. For those of you who don't know, that is a Pan-African flag that she's waving in the background, and it symbolizes the unity of African people around the globe. The red is for the blood that was shed during enslavement. The green is for representing the mineral richness of Mother Earth, and the black is the essence of the people and the beauty of the color people of African descent. And yes, we know that most of us are not actually black. Most of us are brown. We get that, And then finally, on March 17, 2016, Governor Ducey signed a bill that was introduced by Representative Bolden, recognizing Juneteenth Day in Arizona, making it Arizona's 45th state Arizona the 45th state to recognize Juneteenth as a state holiday. And that is a representation of the Juneteenth state flag, and that is the official federal Juneteenth flag. I don't know how official it's going to remain and for how long. But perhaps after the next midterm elections, if somehow it is put in a closet, we'll pull it back out. That's my hope. Sorry. Didn't mean to be a little political for you, but that's my hope. And of course, the star in the middle represents the Lone Star of Texas, where Juneteenth started. The sunburst represents, the little points represents the original 13 colonies, and then the round red thing is the sun rising for a new day and a positive future. So I wrap up with my closing thoughts by simply saying that Juneteenth reminds us that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I said that earlier. It reminds us that we are still fighting the Civil War by proxy, and democracy will kill white supremacy, or white supremacy will kill democracy. They can't coexist. They just can't. So if people who are worried about the future of democracy understand that it is inextricably linked with the future of white supremacy. And white supremacy is inextricably linked to homophobia, heteronormativity, sexism. There's a linkage between all of them. So that's just a little bit of a tidbit for you going forward. But James 2:26 says that if we are steadfast and faithful and add works to our faith, that we will be delivered. Faith by itself does not have works, it is dead. But action will actually ensure that the freedom that the folks in the aftermath of the first Juneteenth holiday actually were trying to secure, the ability to give meaning to their freedom, will actually be a reality. Because the reality is, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are probably a little freer than the people in this room. There are different levels and natures to freedom. But in a democracy, there really shouldn't be. And so be steadfast, keep the faith. Thank you for your time and opportunity. Be hopeful, because God is good. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. Now it's time to invite generosity. Giving to others is one of the ways to access greater joy and love in our hearts. So please give generously to support the activities of this congregation. Would the ushers please come into the aisles to pass the plates? There are many ways that you can give to VUU to show your love and care and appreciation for the work that everyone does here. You can text GIVE to 480-725-4522, or you can use the QR code up on the screen. You can go to VUU.org and click on Give. I would also encourage you to make a pledge for the year, if you haven't already, an intention of the amount that is doable for you and shows your appreciation and support. You can make your pledge on our website as well. Thank you for your generosity.
It's been a long, dark night. I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight, but I see a brand new day dawning. I've been looking for the sunshine. You know, I ain't seen it in so long, but everything's gonna work out just fine, and everything's gonna be all right that's been all wrong. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning, and I can see the light of a brand new day, and I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Oh, everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay. It's been a long, long time since I've known the taste of freedom and those clinging vines that had me bound. Well, I don't need them, 'cause I've been like a captured eagle. You know, an eagle's born to fly. And now that I have won my freedom, life of a clear blue morning. Oh, and everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay. And I can see the light of a clear blue morning. And I can see the light of a brand new day. And I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Oh, everything's gonna be all right. Oh, everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. Gonna be okay.
In closing, we would like to share a poem by Emily Richards.
Our work here this morning is at an end.
And our work has just begun.
The work of holding one another and this community in love.
The work of trusting that we are on the right path.
The work of believing that what connects us is stronger than what separates us.
The work of engaging in that which makes us whole.
The work of deeper understanding and commitment.
The work of letting go of that which does not serve us.
The work of radical inclusion.
The work of collective liberation.
The work of this beloved community.
A beloved community of which we are all part.
A place where we are all welcomed, respected, valued, cherished.
A place where we belong.
Go in peace. Amen. And be blessed.
I don't know if you know this one. This is 1 Foot Lead with Love. It's Melanie DeMore. I hope you'll stand if you're able and join us. Come on up here, Tess. By the way, I didn't introduce Theo. This is Theo. This is Charlie. This is Tessa. Thanks for joining me, guys. One foot in front of 1 foot, 1 foot, and lead with love. 1 foot in front of and lead with love. You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes.
Lift up your eyes.
Don't you despair.
Don't you despair.
Look up ahead.
Look up ahead.
The path is there.
The path is there.
You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared.
I know you're scared.
And I'm scared too.
And I'm scared too.
But here I am.
But here I am.
Right next to you.
Right next to you.
You gotta put 1 foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put 1 foot in front of the other and lead
One more time.
with
I'm going to invite Dr. Whitaker to read our chalice extinguishing words. You have it?
Yeah. Though we extinguish the chalice at the may its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak the words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again.
Go in peace.